when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in.
Any human being, no matter who they are, no matter what side they're on, if they need our help, it's our duty to save them. These are the words of Abu Omar, one of the White Helmets. For those of you who may not know, the White Helmets are a team of 3,000 civilian rescue workers. They're first responders who are active in the midst of Syrian civil war. They've been risking their lives since 2013. And because of their unyielding courage, and because of their relentless compassion, they were nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize last year. The White Helmets are amazing people. They are astonishing, and so much so that a documentary was made about them last year, and it is, of course, called The White Helmets. And in this 40-minute short documentary, we are able to get just a glimpse of the work that they do on a daily basis. This is why I chose this film, and with the help of my son, I chose this film, a 40-minute short documentary. It is a beautiful message of what is possible in the act of living compassion, not only for people across the world, but it shows us all what is possible if we live from love. The White Helmets have a motto, and that motto is, to save a life is to save humanity. To save a life, we save humanity. And you know, when I think about these words, I hear double meaning in them. For of course, when you save a life, you are saving humanity at large. But when you save a life and others are inspired by it, the humanity in all of us is elevated. It is increased. It is enriched. And so this tremendous motto, to save a life is to save humanity, has great meaning. The White Helmets have saved 60,000 lives since they began their work in 2013. 60,000. And 159 of them have been killed in the process of their work. Khalid Farah, a White Helmet who was once a former builder, he said he is willing to do this work. He's willing to sacrifice his soul for the sake of the people, because this work is sacred. Let's take a look.
بس عملها سكر من هون زل صندوق دور دور
كدفاع مدني صاحب القبعة البيضاء اللي أول الناس بيكونوا موجودين حالة القصف.
الله اكبر.
هذا اللي تحته واللي تحته، هذا اللي تحت هذا واللي تحته.
شخص شجاع، أكيد كلمة شجاع، ولو ما شجاع ما كان استمر في هذا العمل.
شباب شفتوا هون طلعوا ولد وطلعوا.
أي إنسان يتعرض وفي أي مكان مجرد قصف كان تحت الإنقاذ، أنا هذا عملي، هذا هو واجبي، بغض النظر عن أي شيء، من أي شيء هو بيمتني، هذا عملي أنا.
يا شباب هاتوا مساعدة ما مشي؟ انتوا هنا عندي ما مشي
ما مشي، بس هذا البيت مسكون، بس ما بعرف وين اخبر هو بتوقف البيت اللي برات البيت ما بعرف.
هون؟
ايه هذا باب حديد ثاني ما بنحس.
ما حسيت طلع دخل كذا
وما بسمع مثل عادي.
طب لا تدخل، شلون ادخل؟ بلكونك ما بدخل منه؟ والله
فصرت اي ضربه اطلع عليها احاول قدر المستطاع انه اصل يعني للشخص اللي تحت الانقاض، ان كان طفل ولا كان كبير ولا كان صغير. طبعا اعده هذا اخوي، اعده انه يكون احتمال تكون اختي، احتمال تكون امي، احتمال تكون اخوي الصغير.
Who are the white helmets? How do you become one of them? This is the question that stayed in my mind as I watched this little 40-minute documentary that won an Oscar last year. And I realized that they are young men, they are middle-aged men who are called from a higher purpose. Most of them have no previous experience as rescue workers. They're builders, they're blacksmiths, they're carpenters, but they are also Muslims. They are people who have a spiritual belief that they cannot rest on in their heads. They have to. They are compelled to put their beliefs into action. And so when their beliefs tell them that they are to love one another and care for one another in the name and in the glory of God, that is what they do. And it reminds me of our unity principles that say consciousness first. And when you hold a consciousness of love, when you hold a consciousness of great compassion, that consciousness will find a way. It will pave a way that your mind and your head could not and would not. I look at the white helmets and I think about the world in which they live. They are in Syria, which is in the middle of a civil war that has gone on for years. They are in the middle of a city, or a country rather, where bombs are dropping constantly. One of the white helmets talked about how his little 2-year-old son can recognize the sound of a plane, whether it's a bomber plane or a regular plane. The white helmets live in a world in which families are torn by either the fear of or the experience of violence and death on a regular basis. And communities are obliterated, and resources can be scarce. I think about this, and I know that if you're like me, I can't even imagine living in a country that is at civil war, where people are at each other, and where you don't know who is for you and who is not. But this is where they live. And I can't imagine what it would be like to have such tremendous courage that calls me up beyond my own fear, beyond my own worries, beyond my own self, to reach out and love. But this is exactly what the white helmets do. They are the saints that go marching in. They are indeed the Good Samaritan that Jesus talked about in the parable. They do not stand by, walk by, justify letting another suffer. Again and again and again, they say, this little boy, this little girl, this man, this woman, I do not know them, but they are like my own. They are my brother, my sister, my mother. Imagine that consciousness. I mean, really, imagine that. We here in this country do not have to live through another 9/11 or a civil war, do we? To imagine that consciousness? But imagine it. And if you can, know that we are called to not just admire the white helmets, because admiring is easy. We are called to dig deeper. We are called to go deeper. We are called to learn from them. But learning is not easy if we truly do it, is it? I mean, after all, we're busy. And we're tired. We're tired. You know what I mean? And we're comfortable. So I don't want to mess all that up. But that's exactly what we need to mess up. We got to make that a big old mess. And we've got to come alive in our compassion, because we don't have to look far to see where there's a call for love. All we have to do is open our eyes. Mother Teresa always said in her teaching, she said, America thinks it's so rich. It is so full and wealthy. But look in your families, and you will see a poverty of love. You will see a hunger where people are needing to feel love. Look in our neighborhoods, the ones we drive by that we don't want to go through. Look at our neighbors. Look at our sisters and our brothers. We are called to be radical compassion and love. That is indeed the message by example that the white helmets give us. They aren't preachy. I'm preachy, but they're not. But they give us this message by example. And so this is indeed what we are called to do and live, and it is the consciousness that one of my favorite new writers, Charles Eisenstein, talks about in his book, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. He calls this consciousness interbeingness. And what that means is that we get that we are so connected that what one feels, another feels, known or unknown to us personally, from the heart, from a deep connection of oneness. He writes, the desire to serve something transcending the separate self and the pain we feel from the suffering of others are two sides of the same coin. We are not just a skin encapsulated ego. We are not just a soul encased in flesh. We are each other, and we are the world. Interbeingness goes far beyond the mental understanding that we are one and that we are connected. Interbeingness requires that we look at ourselves and see where we hold one another or others as separate. And it challenges us to really investigate where we live in separation, where we think about our own selves, where we move into the what's in it for me mentality. It challenges us to go beyond any and all comfort zones, to recognize that everything that we do affects another. It challenges us to live in oneness, at depth, on purpose, all the time. The author himself says it's not easy to do. He is the last person that would say that he has really developed this within himself, because the farther you get into interbeingness, the farther you see that you have to go. But it is exactly what the White Helmets practice. You know, the work they do, the love that they give, the compassion that they express. As you watch, they march right in. They are the first ones. They watch the bombs go off and they start planning, how do we get there? They live interbeingness. And I look at that and I think about how they do it in the midst of their own pain and in the midst of their own sorrow, because they hold no one out of their hearts. Take a look at this next clip.
دخلنا أول ما دخلنا طبعا هي منطقة مثل شبه ضيعة، هي عبارة عن شي 10 بيوت على الأرض، كل البيوت على الأرض.
بهداك اليوم يعني كان العمل شاق وضلينا تقريبا عم نعمل بفترة 16 ساعة.
وأنا بكل اعتقادي وتصوري وأنا عم بشتغل وبعمل تحت الأنقاض إنه عم ببحث على طفل يعني ميت. فسبحان الله، الله بده ما يخلينا نطلع نغادر المكان إلا إنه نطالع أو نسمع صوت. مجرد سماع صوته شعوري يعني لا يوصف، شعوري ما شفت الطفل.
فهذا خلانا هيك، أعطانا القوة إنه نتابع عملنا أكثر وأكثر، وأعطانا أمل بإنه معناتها في أشخاص لسه عايشين.
إنه بعد 16 ساعة وتحت الركاب طفل لا يتجاوز عمره الشهر على قيد الحياة، وبين الغبار وبين الركاب وبين الأسقف اللي كانت منهار عليه.
لذلك سميناه طفل معجزة. الولد كان عمره أسبوع، وأنا بهداك الوقت كان جايني عبودة عبد الحميد، كان عمره تقريبا أسبوعين. فما بعرف إيش هيك اللي دخل مخيلتي، إنه تخيلت إنه هذا ابني، وصرت أبكي بهداك الوقت. يعني ما تحملت الموقف، صرنا نبكي أنا ورفقاتي كلياتهم.
I imagine that the baby was my son, and I started to cry. Jesus said, "You can tell what they are by what they do." And one of the workers Muhammad Farah, tells us in this film. He said that he used to fight for the opposition. In fact, he spent 3 months carrying a gun and using it. But then he came to a realization and he said, I thought it is better now to do humanitarian work rather than to be armed. It is better to rescue a soul rather than take one. No matter what their own grief has been, no matter their own pain, the White Helmets always find a way to hope for a new day. They find a way to hope for a better way. For they always see that there is life. And when there is a death, they honor that death. They find strength within themselves to do what they are called to do. And they always say that today begins again. Mother Teresa did work very much like the White Helmets in her own way. And she was in the face of incredible grief and pain, sickness. She cared for those that no one wanted to look at, no one wanted to attend. And so she has the same energy that the White Helmets did. And what helped her to move forward is she said, yesterday, it's gone. And tomorrow, it hasn't yet come. We only have today. So let us begin. I want you to take a look at this last clip that starts after Abu, who was sitting on his bed, has just lost his brother.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة
بأنه بكرة رح يكون أحسن من اليوم اللي راح. دائما يعني بيكون عنا تفاؤل أنه إن شاء الله اللي جاي أحسن من اللي رايح، ولابد أنه يظهر الحق في يوم من الأيام.
الحمد لله على كل حال.
ولو ما في أمل إنسان يعني لازم يموت. أمل لازم واحد ما يقطعه أبدا. والله يعني حسيت بشعور يعني سعادة سعيد. ما حدا بحس بالسعادة إلا اللي عاشه.
محمود تعال محمود، شلونك؟
خلص
محمود شلونك حبيبي؟
This here is the little miracle baby we saw pulled out in the previous clip. The White Helmets say that Mahmoud gives them inspiration. They say that he gives them hope to be patient, to be persistent, to always live and know that there is a possibility. And so in the midst of their own grief, in the midst of their own pain, they move forward in this perfect way. Abu Omar says, all lives are precious and valuable. A child, even if he is not my son, is like my son. I cannot explain it. And so today, as we think about the White Helmets, first of all, we give thanks for the work that they do. And we open our minds and our hearts to what is possible within us. Unity's co-founder, Charles Fillmore, tells us that the value of all service lies in the spirit in which the service is given. He said it doesn't matter the importance or the magnitude of that service. That even if that act itself is a lowly task or a deed, because of where you come from, because of the love in which you serve, that act of service is made holy, it is made joyous, and it prospers all. Mother Teresa, she realized that she could not change the whole world. She said, but I can cast a stone across the waters, and I can create a ripple. So the question becomes, how can you be an act of greater compassion? How can you open your eyes to see where you can no longer live in separation in your thoughts, with your words and with your actions? And start with your family. Start in the communities and the environments in which you live. And know that when you come from love, and when you magnify that love through compassion with your time, compassion with your talents, compassion in your giving, that you send out a ripple that makes a difference in the world. We are all connected, each and every one of us. We all feel pain. We all become hungry. We all shed tears. And we all feel love. Today we open up to this knowing in a greater way, in a more subtle way, and in a more profound way. We don't need a civil war to rock us to the core. But we can be transformed mightily if we allow it to happen in and through us. We are the way that God gets around. We are the presence and the very activity of God. And so I invite you to move into your own sacred space within your being and know that, like the White Helmets, the space in you is no different. And know that when you come from your sacredness, everyone you see, everyone you know, every face you can imagine is indeed the face of God. It is the very activity of God in expression. And we, as sacred beings, are called to a higher level of knowing that we are meant to honor and serve the face of God.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of love.
Today we hold every being within our heart, and we ask God to show us the way, to lead us to a higher level of calling, a greater way of being. We leave behind us our own small worries and thoughts and ideas, for we know the truth. We know that God is greater in and through us, and we see a new way. We make a commitment to release our separation, and when there is a call for compassion, for generosity, for kindness, we answer the call. Allow yourself to be open to the guidance of God that directs you now. See how you can make changes in your everyday life that open you to being the compassion of God. Move out of your convenience. Move out of your busyness. Move out of your agenda, and allow God to be mighty, and give God all the glory. For you are indeed the way God gets around. Thank you, God, for this awareness. Thank you for the willingness in our hearts to rise up, to reach out, to serve in love.